You sure can't seem to get enough here. You just won an election as a frontliner in Michigan, and with 2 days' notice, have decided to go for the conference chair role. Start off by telling us what would make you different from the others running for this position in enacting a new agenda in this new Congress.
Well, first and foremost, I think the job of the conference chair is to unite the party and unite our conference to make sure that we pass President Trump's agenda. We had a tremendous win in Michigan. We were able to flip Michigan red for President Trump, and we actually gained a House seat in Tom Barrett for the state of Michigan. And we did that, obviously, through hard work, but through clear messaging. And I'm really excited to have the opportunity to lead the conference. Elise did a great job, and there's big shoes to fill. But one of the things that has been my strong suit is the ability to build teams, whether it's in sports or with my family or the business that I ran. Building a team and getting people to all sing from the same hymnal is pretty important, and it seems to be working, at least in Michigan right now.
Well, Congresswoman, as you talk about the importance of getting Trump's agenda passed, it will take the numbers to do that. And the reason you're able to run for conference chair is because one of the two people polled from the House happened to have that job, Elise Stefanik. And of course, we learned today officially that Congressman Mike Waltz has also been tapped by the incoming president to serve as national security advisor. This is something that Speaker Johnson spoke about earlier this morning. Take a listen to what he said, and then I have a question for you.
Sure.
President Trump fully understands and appreciates the math here, and it's just a numbers game. You know, we believe we're going to have a larger majority than we had last time. It's too early to handicap it, but we're optimistic about that. But every single vote will count. He and the administration are well in tune to that. I don't expect that we will have more members leaving, but I'll leave that up to him.
Congresswoman, if the president-elect keeps pulling from the House, how hard is it going to be to get anything done in an expeditious way?
Well, I think the president, I agree with Speaker Johnson, the president does know how to do the math, and I think it's important that he has the right people in the right jobs. And I think he's doing that. Right now, I haven't heard of anyone else being serious contenders that he'll be pulling from. But I trust in President Trump that he'll do the right thing for the country and the American people, and I think the math will work in our favor.
Congresswoman, you served on the Armed Services Committee among several others, and I wonder if you see opposition to continued funding of the war effort in Ukraine as something that all Republicans are embracing in this new conference. Is there unity on that issue?
I think we're getting to a unified place, but I believe President Trump will have his own agenda on how we deal with the war in Ukraine. He'll lay out a game plan for how to get out of the war in Ukraine. That has been a very contentious issue, so to speak, within the conference. Obviously, people have very differing opinions on that, but the one thing that we all agree on is we need to end the war and build peace around the globe. And under President Trump's former term, let's remember, we had exactly 0 wars, different than the world being on fire with this administration. So I'm confident that in his presidency, that is one of his first tasks that he will take a look at, is how do we restore faith and confidence in the world and bring the world back to peace as opposed to the world being on fire right now.
Well, before he can do that, before he takes office in January, he will be making a trip to Washington tomorrow, Congresswoman, to meet with you and your Republican colleagues. What are you hoping he will say? What are you hoping to hear?
Well, I think it'll be a vision of hope. I think the American people have clearly spoken and given us a mandate on what's important to them. Energy independence, closing the border, economy, peace. I believe he will begin to lay out his agenda and his message for us to follow. We're excited about his visit. We're extremely looking forward to it. So I'm excited to see what he does have to say. But that's what I think it'll be, a beginning stages to lay out the first 100 days on what we're hopeful to accomplish.
As someone vying for conference chair, do you support renegotiating the motion to vacate, Congresswoman, to make it a bit more difficult, a steeper climb to fire the Speaker of the House?
Yeah, it was that motion to vacate was a very dicey motion, but I think what is important to our conference, I think we're going to bring it up in the conference rules, and it will be up to the conference to decide what we do with the motion to vacate. It's my job to steer the conference in the right direction in terms of making sure that everybody has a voice and every voice gets heard, and really to debate the issues. But at the end of the day, the conference will vote on it, and the conference will make a decision on how that motion to vacate will play
You don't
out.
have an opinion, though, on having one member being able to fire the speaker?
What I would have an opinion on is that we come together as a conference and we unite as a conference to make sure that we can get President Trump's policies and agenda to move forward for the American people.
Congresswoman, just quickly here, there's been reporting today that some hardline conservatives within the conference are looking to put up a protest candidate, if you will, in the leadership election tomorrow against the Speaker, Mike Johnson. Is that going to go anywhere?
You know, I've heard just rumblings about it, so anything that I've heard has just been hearsay, so I hate to comment on that. My hope is that we can get our speaker in quickly, effectively, so we can go to work, because Lord knows there's a lot of work that we need to undo from this Biden administration.